Welcome everybody out to podcast number 410. Are you showing appreciation? Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome everybody. I hope you're doing well. I am going to do this little smaller podcast 410, and this is titled Letters of Appreciation. So I've already talked to you in the last podcast how I'm doing. I just want you to know I get more time with the family. I was on the road for like 4 stinking months, like straight. I remember I only had any mental capacity for Angry Birds there for a couple of flights, and I'm like, Katie, I'm going to die. So when we started to pivot to where we're able to do a lot of stuff online, virtually through courses with Nicholas Modig and his Construction Excellence program on his platform, boy, that really helped out. But now I'm grinding, heading over to the recording studio today to record a lesson series on stability. So I will let you know how that goes. And that's how I'm doing right now. So loving the jogging, loving the listening to books. I am not suffering from cognitive decline. My mind is back and I'm jamming. So here's some here's some fans from feedback. You know, actually, that might be a podcast episode. Here's some feedback from fans. Sorry. Jason, I've been listening to your podcast and just finished reading your book, Elevating Construction Tax Planning. That's the first one. Thank you so much for your dedication to improving the construction experience. And then they sign off with their name. So really appreciate that. Okay, so quick little podcast today. So there's a company in Tucson, an electrical contractor, and I'm not saying that this is universal everywhere, so this isn't necessarily an endorsement, but Wilson Electric in Tucson, Arizona was the best, in my opinion. And there's a foreman down there, John Boore, who I have studied a bit and am going to talk him into doing some podcasts, or at least let me do like a documentary series on his life and how he was an amazing foreman. In fact, it was so good working with John that when I first started working with him, and this is no kidding. I mean, this is not like, I'm not necessarily proud of this, but I basically told the trade partner, I was like, I want his title changed from foreman to project superintendent, because like that's the level he was. And they actually changed it. His title to project superintendent. Anyway, that's a real story. But they were so good and did such a good job. I remember John, he really dug into the drawings. He traced all the circuits. They were all color highlighted with pencils. Every outlet was marked by circuit. The as-built drawings were well kept up. Everything was planned and prepared. He was the foreman that would take the things that I was teaching from Lean, write it on a list, orient the foreman, orient the new workers on site. He would check in with his lead persons and the lead foreman as they were going. Everything that he did was down to excellence. Everything that was installed was perfect. Everything that he responded to, it was just absolutely great. But it was the organization, the discipline, the reinforcing, the communication, doing all those things as a leader. Anyway, he was the best foreman that I've ever seen. And his people always knew what they were doing and you could count on them. Anyway, they were an absolutely fantastic superstar on that project. And I remember sending a letter. Actually, I don't know if you can consider it a letter. It was an email, but it was written like a letter to the company, to the president down there locally, and to the rest of the folks. And basically just saying, you know, Wilson Electric has made this project and has really gone above and beyond. John has been fantastic. And I listed 4 or 5 other really key things. I actually went through my files to see if I could find that response. But because I don't keep things from previous companies, I think I just lost the file. But I wish I could have. But a couple of days later, I received an email from the Wilson Electric folks and his supervisor saying, Jason, we haven't in the last 20 years received feedback like this in writing, although our projects and our people perform the same way on other projects, basically. And we've had some fun along the way, and this has been a remarkable project. We appreciate everything that you and DPR have done on this project to make it successful. And he just went on and on about how important and impactful it was to receive that feedback. And then he was able to forward that to his superiors at Wilson Electric, and it was really fantastic. And here's my, I'm not guilting anybody. I'm just thinking, like, if there's a company, especially with that foreman, let's just say, for instance, hypothetically, that even if it's just John Boore and these other projects, I know for a fact that he delivered over the last 15, 20 years, the same kind of service that he delivered to me. And to never receive any feedback could be a little bit disheartening and disappointing, right? It could make you a little bit gruff and numb to things. So I'm not guilting any of us. I'm not shaming. I'm just saying how much better could things be if people showed that kind of appreciation. So in the last 20 years, right? And they were glowing because of this feedback, and John was very appreciative. He was from the Northeast, probably from the Brooklyn area in New York, and he's very like, just get it done in your face. And he was really softened by the whole thing. And I made it a practice after that to send letters of appreciation to the trade partners that were doing well, always with raving feedback. And guess what? Not only did that help them, but they went out of their way to help me. And so this is a small little podcast here. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but I would just say the principle here is to send letters and messages of appreciation. When you, and Dale Carnegie talks about this in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, give a dog a good name. Now, it's not a great analogy because these people are not dogs, and I don't like that analogy, but he was saying that, if you give your dog, your pet, your children, your supervisor, whatever, if you give somebody a good name, you'll treat them like that, they'll live up to it, and it really improves all of the dynamics. So my point is, if your dog's name is Stupid, you're going to treat it that way and, God forbid, kick it and be mean, right? But if the dog's name is Buddy or Happy or Joy or whatever, and you look at it and treat it that way, then it's going to reciprocate in remarkable and calm and beautiful and happy and tail wagging kind of ways, right? And if we give contractors a good name and appeal to their nobler motives and give them something to live up to, then they always will. I mean, the biggest secret, like, that nobody knows is that these trades and these workers and these foremen, they're good people and they can follow the rules and they're just as smart as we are. But the world has told them that they're stupid, and people have told them, oh, you didn't go to college, you're stupid. And, hey, you've got tattoos and you smoked weed when you were younger, so you're stupid. And it's like, no, they're not stupid. Like, they've followed a different path. In some instances, they're just as smart as we are. They're amazing human beings. They're very creative. They have different perspectives. They're good, kind-hearted people, and they deserve and need and require our respect. And as we say to them the truth, which is, you can be whatever you want. You can be president, you can be vice president, you can own your own company, you can change your marriage, you can go to certification trainings, you can be the leader, you can be a general superintendent, you can be whatever you want. And I'm here, by the way, to support that. And by the way, here are some great things that I noticed about you and your potential. Boy, if you give them a good name, they will certainly live up to it. So the current conditions is, just because we're busy, so I'm not guilting you, don't get mad at me. I just say, just because we get busy, nobody does this. But boy, what if you, on your calendar, your leader standard work, said every month, hey, send out a note of appreciation to a trade partner? What could that do? So here are some questions. Are you showing appreciation? Have you sent an email recently? What would happen with relationships if you did that? And what would happen to you personally if you did that? And then last question, this is actually impromptu here. How would you feel that day after having done that? Appreciation is key. Boy, let me see if I can remember this. Hearty in my approbation and lavish in my praise. That was something from Dale Carnegie's book. I'm always hearty in my approbation and lavish in my praise. As long as it's sincere, it will change the world. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.